We might make it start, everyone. Okay. As I mentioned, toilets are out there. We've got 2 coffee breaks and a lunch break. But I just wanted to firstly welcome everyone to this workshop on a holistic approach to accelerating energy efficiency action. So we're going to be going from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock today, and we're going to be covering up a whole range of aspects of energy efficiency. So I'll kick off with an introduction shortly. Then we're going to go to session 2, which is international collaborative activities and opportunities. And then some information on knowledge, tools and energy efficiency. Then best practice policies on energy efficiency. And then finally we're going to hear from Farrell about the Energy Efficiency Directive, Article 7. So there's quite specific areas we're going to cover off today. And it's my hope that we have quite an interactive session. So I encourage you to share your experience, ask questions. At the end of every session we'll have 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes at the end of every session for questions. And as I said, I encourage you to share your experience and ask questions, and we'll have some discussion. And we might also have some questions coming through on the webinar. But any questions we don't get through on the webinar, we'll answer them directly afterwards. Okay, so just to kick things off, we've got a range of presenters today. Myself, I'm Tim Farrell from the Copenhagen Centre on Energy Efficiency. My colleague, Ksenia Petrochenko, also working with me on energy efficiency. We've got Paolo Bertoldi and from the European Commission's Joint Research Centre. And so this workshop is a collaborative activity of both the Copenhagen Centre and European Commission's Joint Research Centre. So thank you very much for your participation and working with us. Stephen Fawkes, we're going to hear from Stephen from the Investor Confidence Project in Europe. Rob Cool unfortunately can't make it today, so I've incorporated some of his ideas in my presentation on international collaborative opportunities. And then we'll hear from Yamina Sahab from OpenX later on today, so she's going to be joining us. You've seen the program covering off those different sections. As I said, we'll stick to time because it's also being a webinar, and a copy of the program at the back of the room. Just firstly on the Copenhagen Centre on Energy Efficiency, it commenced in 2013, but really got staffed up in 2014. So energy efficiency experts like myself and Ksenia came from different parts of the world to come to the Copenhagen Centre. We're a research and advisory institution focusing on accelerating energy efficiency action globally. So we're working with a whole lot of partners, many of them participating in this webinar today. And we're serving as a Sustainable Energy for All Energy Efficiency Hub. So I'll talk shortly about the objectives of the SE for All initiative, but we're acting as the hub for that. So that's why a lot of the actions and activities we're undertaking is through partnerships and collaborations. And you can see some of them there. And I think if you look at those sort of examples of partnerships, a lot are being demonstrated through this activity today. We're partnering with international organisations. So I'll talk about some activities of UNEP and the International Energy Agency. We're doing a lot of work with development banks because we know that finance is really important. We've got regional partners, so we're doing a lot of work with the UN regional commissions. Obviously, today we're also working with the European Commission. We're doing work with national governments and a whole range of other stakeholders in the private sector and the university. And also talk today briefly about some of our work on the SE for All's Global Energy Efficiency Accelerator platform. And we've got these 3 focus areas, capacity building, engaging the private sector, and then really being a source of knowledge dissemination globally. So there's some of the activities and that we're working on at Copenhagen Centre. So it's setting the scene in the context of SE for All. You've probably heard about these objectives for 2030 around providing universal access to modern energy services, doubling the rate of energy efficiency globally, and doubling the share of renewable energy. So these are 3 objectives, and SE for All was set up in 2011 by Ban Ki-moon. and they're quite, they're very ambitious targets. So the only way we're going to meet these targets is through collaboration and working together. So that's why a lot of the work that we do is involving collaboration and partnerships. Today I wanted to talk about 2015. It was certainly a landmark year in terms of lots of activity happening globally and really pulling countries and regions and sub-regions together to a common objectives. And so I think it was really a landmark year, and yes, it was a lot of commitment. Now we need to move to the next phase of implementation and action, really backing up all that talk. And that is the second part of what I want to talk about turning these commitments into results and action and implementation on the ground. So key events in 2015. We've had these climate commitments around the UNFCCC. We have had commitments by national policies and national governments and at city level, and we've had undertaking by governments and companies. But it's not enough. And I think that with 2015 we had the SE for All objectives, and then we had the Sustainable Development Goals, and we know that Goal 7 on clean energy really focuses on energy efficiency, renewable energy, and energy access, and that really does reflect the SE for All objectives, and is totally, perfectly aligned with that. And we also had COP21 and the Paris Agreement, and we've had this ambitious goal of leaders that want to get well below 2 degrees C, and certainly to achieve that, energy efficiency, as we know, has to be a really big play, because that sort of objective is ambitious. We have to pull together and do a whole lot of action. And converting them into nationally determined contributions on clean energy. When you look at those INDCs, what you do notice is that the profile of energy efficiency has really been risen. When we looked at some of those, at least 165 of the commitments mention energy efficiency. And I think that the profile of energy efficiency has really risen, and people realise that to get to these ambitious climate goals, energy efficiency has to be really front and centre of the policy of governments and regions. So that's pleasing. As I said, these objectives really see reflected the objectives of SE for All. So we've got these common objectives that are ambitious, but we know that we can get there. So as I mentioned, we've got these SDG 7. We see that the SDG really helps pull governments together, but the SE for All can be a really delivery mechanism to help and see that implementation through. So I think it's great to see they're being reflected by one another, and that we've got this delivery mechanism that can help pull countries and regions together. And we've got the SE for All and UNFCCC process. We saw at COP21 a whole lot of commitment from jurisdictions, companies and financial institutions that really pulled together and said, yes, this is important, and really backed SE for All. So that momentum helped build up to COP21, and as we the Lima Paris Action Agenda that really looked at non-state actors, so trying to get non-state actors to participate with governments, it's going to be a key feature at COP22 in Marrakesh, Morocco. So that's going to happen in the first half of November, and I think that that momentum of all this commitment from jurisdictions, companies and financial institutions needs to keep running through COP22 and beyond, and really start to move towards this campaigning mode and this talking about action into actual implementation, because it's then that we can share more of these best practices of how different countries have moved in the transition to implementation of some of these objectives across access, efficiency and renewables. So the second part, as I said, is really important that we turn these commitments and this campaigning mode into results and implementation. But we think that that structures can be improved to ensure this speed and scale that's required to meet these ambitious climate goals, and a renewed focus on this participation and collaboration and sharing experiences. And I guess that's why partly we're here today. There's sharing of experience between governments, service and technology partners and financiers. So you need the government commitments with the policies that underlie that investments can flow into countries, and the private sector that wants to get engaged. There are lots of emerging energy efficiency organisations. The SE for All is as you know, it's under new leadership by Rachel Kite, the CEO, and I think that she's bringing a whole wealth of experience from the World Bank and trying to bring these organisations and stakeholders together to get the private sector and finance to come along, try and focus on really high impact action so that we can more easily and more quickly get to these objectives. But the focus on trying to get some deliverables in 2016 to 2020 is get some runs on the board is going to be a focus of SE for All. So this SE for All strategy from 2016 to 2020 is something that's been worked over the last few months since Rachel's come into the position as CEO. As I said, bringing a whole wealth of experience and also bringing some other people on board from the World Bank and other places. So really, as I said, that strategy is really about a shift from the campaign and delivery, empowering leaders, getting more partnerships together, unlocking finance, so using experience in the World Bank and other financial institutions to come together and help start financing some of these initiatives. Marshalling the evidence, whether that's through, you've seen the global tracking framework, which has shown in 2015 that we're moving towards these objectives of SE for All, but we're not moving fast enough, so we really got to hit the accelerator and amplifying the voices. So whether it's energy efficiency, energy productivity, moving these things in the right direction so implementation is happening.